Or to the cloud. All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ashley Young. Thank you so much for being here today. We are talking about the 2025 Tacoma Venues and Events Special Event Funding. I'm your host today, Ashley Young, Special Events Coordinator for the City of Tacoma. I've got my co-host here, Gerald Anuevo from also Tacoma Venues and Events. He's our marketing coordinator. And we have two guest panelists today. We have Jennifer Clark. She is with our risk management department, and we have Tiffany Bestwick, who's on our finance team. And I'm going to start sharing my screen. We've got a lot to cover, so I don't really want to waste time. Also, just not my vibe, not a time waster. All right. So I hope everybody can see my screen all well and good. Again, Ashley Young, Tacoma Venues and Events. And let's get into 2025 special event funding. So we've got some new items for this year, which is really exciting. We've got some new points of contact. A goal of ours is to bridge some gaps and barriers between staff and our recipients. And so that's why you're going to see us start inviting more city staff from different departments. Also, our new contract, our business analyst has gone to a new staff member. So several of you who have received funding in the past have worked with Penny. She retired as of yesterday, and we're very, very happy and excited for her. And we have Kwan Sun, who will be our business analyst and helping you with the contract process. Also, what has changed is the maximum request amounts. In the past, it has gone from up to 10,000, from 1,000 to 10,000. This year, it'll be 1,000 to 5,000. Unfortunately, we are receiving some budget cuts when it comes to this funding program, but we still want to press on forward. And so with whatever council decides our budget is, when that time comes, I believe next month, we will have that for funding, and we will do the maximum only to 5,000. There's also been updates to the guidelines. We received a lot of feedback last year about redundancies and several questions. And so the Special Events and Recognitions Committee, who oversees this funding, changed the guidelines and the questions. They also changed the application format and the platform we use. It will be Google Forms now from now on, and then that will allow us to save work and come back to it, and for you to be able to save your work and come back to it. A lot of positives. There's translation services through the Google, through your browser when you use Google Forms, which is really exciting. However, if you do need translation services, please reach out so that you can get a more accurate translation for your application and for the guidelines and for all of the supplemental materials that go along with it. I'm going to take a brief pause real quick because I realized I forgot to say, hey, if you have any questions, that's why our guy Gerald's here. He's going to be watching the Q&A for us. So drop any questions you have in the chat, drop it in the Q&A box. We'll definitely have a time where we'll stop and allow everybody to ask questions. But in the meantime, there may be things that either Gerald can share with you right away in real time, or we'll already have a list of questions to go over when that time comes. Okay, moving on. So I'm going to give you an overview of what we're going to go over today. We're going to go over timeline. We're going to go over eligibility, requirements for being eligible or for, executing the event and how to receive your funds. What kind of support services are there, criteria, and how to apply. We're also going to go over registration and insurance, your contract process, marketing requirements for the funding, and your toolkit and additional resources. So here is our timeline. Today is September 20th. This is our first Q&A session. Applications have now been open 10 days. We will have a second Q&A session on October 2nd at 2 p.m. That will be online and virtual again. And in the meantime, we'll have this Q&A session up and recorded and published online for reference. On October 18th is when our applications close. and recipients will be announced January of 2025. How to determine if you're eligible for the event funding. You're eligible if you answer yes to one of these. If you're a nonprofit with a 501c designation, it could be C3 or C4. If you're a city recognized neighborhood business district association, a city recognized neighborhood council group, an organized group of community volunteers. However, the organized group has to submit for the event, not an individual. If you are a for-profit business wishing to produce an event that is free and open to the public and is outside of your typical line of business. If you're an educational institution wishing to produce an event, federally recognized native tribe or nonprofit, and this is not necessarily an eligibility thing, but it's just something we look at and just see what other kinds of contracts you have open with the city in 2024 or in 2025. Other eligibility, this is what we will not be accepting. Single or individual, so individual event producers that are not eligible to apply, you must apply as a group or organization. If the funding will go towards scholarships or donations for individuals to attend, if it is for a political organization or a candidate for political office, if it is for an organization that discriminates against any group, if it's for a program that promotes or endorses any type of religious affiliation, if there's more than one application for an event from an organization, we will only be accepting one for organization. And for events that receive funding from the city, again, doesn't necessarily rule you out, but it is something that we look at and consider. That's why exceptions may apply. So here are your requirements. The funded event must take place within the city of Tacoma limits. We have put a map on the application this year so that you can plug the address in of your venue or where you expect your event to be, to make sure that it is in the actual city limits. There is incorporated parts of Pierce County that still use Tacoma as their address, but that does not mean they're within the city limits, and unfortunately, they're not eligible. The event must be free and open to the public. It must have a $1 to $1 match of either cash contributions, sponsorships, or in-kind and donated support. And so I'm going to take a step real quick and just talk about what the 1-to-1 match means. So if you are requesting $4,000 for your event, you need to be able to identify during the budget process that you also have $4,000 of your own funding through various ways. It could be your organization has $4,000 and that will match it. It could be a combination of from your organization or sponsorships, but it can also look like in the form of in-kind services. So if you have a event rental company that is donating your stage, the value of that stage could be counted towards your match. And then also volunteer hours. You'll see in the application that the state has a rate of pay for volunteers. Even though you're not paying them, they recognize that that is the worth of a volunteer for an event. And I believe it's at $33.47 an hour, something to that extent. We'll see that later on in the presentation. And please reach out to me if you have any questions about whether your match is eligible. I'm happy to go over that with you. The event must support activities that are fully accessible to all audiences, including those with disabilities, and those would be visual and non-visual disabilities. It must comply with the laws of federal government, state of Washington, and city of Tacoma, including non-discrimination and equal employment opportunities. And your organization will be required to have a city of Tacoma business license. You agree to extend an invitation for Tacoma venues and events to participate as a vendor where applicable. We understand that not all events are designed that way, but we just want the opportunity to table out those events that have that as an option. You agree to participate in the City of Tacoma's Green Event Program. That's actually now called the ES Event Services, where Environmental Services provides solid waste equipment such as portable restrooms, hand washing stations, and trash and recycle cans for events. And then you agree to follow all the requirements of the city's contracting and purchasing program and provide necessary insurance. So let's talk about what your money cannot be used towards. The funding cannot be used towards expenses other than directly producing the event. So you cannot pay for staff hours that were not spent planning and organizing the event. You cannot spend it on a desk or an office for your organization. It must be directly correlated to the event. For any general operating support of your organization, again, staffing, logistics, or marketing that is not directly associated with the event. It cannot be used for fundraisers to promote the event. So sometimes people do fundraising beforehand. It cannot be used towards that. Cannot be used towards beer liquor gardens, cannot be used as a debt service or for political activities. And it cannot be used to payment to anyone working on the event who's a current member of the City Events and Recognitions Committee or the City of Tacoma. So what can we use our money on? Well, a lot of things. You can use it towards any of your professional services for the event. That's an event planner, an event producer, an event coordinator. You can use it towards any traffic control device services or police services, any sort of stage management for your entertainment or staging, towards your performers, your musicians, your entertainment people. For your outdoor and street events, it can be used towards police personnel, security, flaggers, traffic control devices. It can be used towards your marketing for the event, such as graphic design work, printing, social media boosts, and then any of the equipment that is needed for an event, like restrooms, solid waste stations, children's activities. I also want to say it can absolutely be used towards insurance, and it can absolutely be used towards any permits or licenses or fees that are needed for your event to happen. Now, how do we know what you're spending your money on? Well, we ask you for the information. So a part of the application is that you submit a budget template. The template looks like this. It is a downloadable Word document in the application itself. The only section we are asking you to fill out is the estimated. And really the only two criteria here are that your total down here is not less than your total down here. So the total on the top is your income or revenue. How much will you get from different funding pools, sponsorships, in-kind services, grants, vendor fees, anybody that you are charging to participate in your event? That's so even tickets itself, although the event has to be free to the public, but there can be like ticketed things that may be an element of your event. And then down here is your expenditures. So any supplies, coordination, design, marketing, concessions, food, control devices, licenses, personnel services that are for your event. So again, we're just going to kind of go over what is considered income and what is considered expenses. Again, income is any registration fees, any concession sales, any funding from the government, from your local jurisdiction, from other agencies that provide funding, such as like the Port of Tacoma, your volunteer time, your any funding or budget that you have in your existing pools, sponsorships, any of that stuff is seen as income. And again, your expenses are anything that is spent to produce the event: insurance, permits, office supplies, materials, entertainment, equipment, staging, solid waste materials. So just a quick example to show you, again, we're only filling out the estimated. Should you be awarded For your final report, you will be expected to provide the actuals. And we'll go over that for the people who are recipients of the funding to let you know what that looks like. I do save this and send it back to you when your final report comes out or is due. And so just let me know if you have questions in filling this out. So let's talk about the scored section of the application. We have a committee, the City Events and Recognitions Committee. They are comprised of 10 volunteers that live in the city of Tacoma. They are council appointed and represent the 5 districts and at large. It is the committee that lives in the Tacoma Venues and Events Department, and I am the fortunate staff person who gets to sit as the liaison. So I help them create these tools, and they determine who will be funded. And then I work with them to give them the events money, the fun part. So what is the scoring based off of? Well, 35% of your score is towards merit of your event. What's your event's agenda? How well is it crafted? Does it align with your mission of your organization? What kind of experiences is it giving the attendee? How is it impacting the community? What kind of education or entertainment or art elements are there? Another 35% is scored on equity. That's treatment, access, opportunity, advancement for all people, making sure that you're incorporating universal design practices, language access, marketing to underrepresented communities. How are you making them feel welcome? Having representation at your event for the community that you're serving and representation in your organization for the community that you're serving. 20% is on community impact. So what positive change, what tangible or intangible effects, how is this serving your community or the group of people or your culture or your population? And then 10% is on your capacity to present the event. Is your staff organized? Do you have a well-crafted plan? What kind of team do you have? What kind of documents or legwork, or have you seen successes in the past? Have you presented this event before? And your commitment to follow through with actually executing the event. So now we've learned all of what you can do, what you can't do, and how to do it, and where to go. That's where we go now, how to apply. So when you apply, you're going to want to have your basic contact information about your event. We do require that you provide a location and a date. We understand that those things may change within the year. So we are willing to work with you on that, but we do need an idea of where you're going to be at bare minimum. You need to submit that proposed event budget template, provide narrative responses to the criteria questions, a written explanation of your date, use of the right-of-way if you're doing a festival, use of the park if you're doing a park, what kind of venue it is. In some instances for your outdoor events, we would like to see an event footprint of your event, so a site map. We want to understand what kind of area it will be taking up. And then samples and descriptions of what kind of activities, performances, art, food, etc. that you're going to have. So now we're going to get into the what ifs. What if you receive funding? We received a lot of feedback about having the resources and the tools and the understanding of being successful in applying for funding and being successful once you receive funding and you're going through the process. And I want to acknowledge that going through the procurement and enablement process for government entities is challenging. And it feels like there are a lot of barriers. And we understand, and we are always working our best towards reducing those, but still working within the confines of what we're required to work through. So we're here to try to help you understand more, what does the follow through look like, so that you understand what you're getting yourself into. So should you receive funding, you will go through the supplier registration. There are two places where people can sign up as a supplier. The first one is SAP, and that is the City of Tacoma's accounting system. And then the other one is Ariba, which is the City of Tacoma's contract management system. We have been advised, for those who've only been using SAP for the last several years for this funding, that everybody will be moving to Ariba this year. So if you receive funding and you receive it again in the future, and you've only used SAP, we are now being told that they want everybody to move to Ariba so that there's less confusion about the process. I'm also going to stop and talk about what a fiscal sponsor is. So we try to make this funding pool available to all types of organized groups, people, and organizations. And we also recognize that these people or groups or organizations may not have everything that they need in order to receive funding from the city. Like they are unable to receive their own insurance, or they don't have a dedicated bank account set up for the event itself. So we allow our recipients to use fiscal sponsors. A fiscal sponsor is an organization that you create a contractual agreement between a project and the established nonprofit. If you decide to go in that direction, that is fantastic. We have nothing against it. We just want to recognize that there will be an additional step in the contracting process where the fiscal sponsor will be required to set themselves up in Ariba and sign the contract and go through with that process. So I'm going to go over a little bit about the supplier enablement. Unfortunately, we were not able to get a staff member to talk about it. So I will be just kind of reading the information that they gave me. And for any direct questions, I'm happy to connect people with them. So if you're not in Ariba, you will receive an email from our purchasing department. They will need the following information: the company information or the fiscal sponsor information, the account information for the user, name, email, password, the type of business structure, whether it's a corporation, nonprofit, a tax ID, either in the form of an EIN or social security number, a W-9 form, the bank account and routing information for the payment, and the remittance name, email, and address. And that's who will be on the invoice itself. Once that's reviewed by our purchasing department, you will be notified when your account in Ariba is transactional. That means when you can submit an invoice for payment. If you're already set up in Ariba, just log in, please. Make sure your information is updated. We have had people that forget to update their address and checks get lost in the mail, and to have to go through that whole process again is really challenging for people. And so just do a quick check, make sure everything's up to speed, and that it's good to go. I am happy to say that we had somebody in our risk management department able to talk about insurance requirements. So I'm going to take a breath and a drink of water, and I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Clark, and she's going to talk to you about the insurance requirements for the city of Tacoma. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you, Ashley. So I'm Jennifer. I work in the risk management department, and I'm a resource for you to utilize to get you through the insurance requirement piece of things. Excuse me. So we'll have my email available so that you could reach out to me if you have questions. Some of you may already have insurance, and if you do, you can feel free to send me the insurance, and then I can review it and make sure if it meets the requirements. And then if so, I'll send it to Ashley, and you'll be ahead of the game there. So what we need at a minimum would be a verification of commercial general liability insurance. We ask for limits of 1 million and 2 million in the aggregate. The aggregate is a maximum amount to be paid out in a policy period for all losses. We also ask that the city of Tacoma is an additional insured on the policy. That is typically done by what's called an endorsement. So you'll want to ask your insurer, your agent or broker, to provide the city of Tacoma additional insured endorsement. The waiver of subrogation endorsement is it's another endorsement that's required along with the primary and non-contributory. Depending on your event, it may only be the additional insured endorsement. So I don't want to belabor the point of the other two at this point. Ashley, do you want to move to the next slide? There are, depending on the activities that you'll be doing in their scope of work, you may need additional insurance. So if the scope of work includes working with youth under 18, for example, then there is another coverage called sexual abuse, abuse and molestation, or sexual misconduct. If it's near water, there's a coverage called marine general liability. Both of those can also be endorsed to your commercial general liability policy. That typically makes it more affordable. And if the services of your event require a vehicle, then auto liability insurance is necessary too. And also, if you have employees, then there's a workers' comp component that you would need to provide, as well as employer's liability insurance. It's also known as stopgap. And again, they can be endorsed to your your commercial general liability policy. If your event is a day or two or a week, you can get special event insurance if you don't already have insurance, because that's typically going to be a much more affordable option for you. And so we actually will review all of the insurance requirements that we receive to make sure that they meet the requirements. If at all possible, I will work directly with your insurance agent or broker to help move that process along and ensure that the components are satisfied. So please don't feel free to give my contact information to your agent or broker that you're working with. They're welcome to contact me too. The goal is to take you out of the middle whenever possible so that we can take care of this as smoothly as possible. So in a nutshell, that's the insurance requirements for special events. They are they're more streamlined than for contracts. So you might not need quite a bit of this coverage for your event. But if you do, I can help make that as seamless as possible for you. And Ashley will give you, there'll be a guideline of these requirements as well that you can forward to your agent or broker as well.
Yes, absolutely. And Gerald's going to talk to us about the supplier toolkit a little bit more towards the end of the presentation. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for being here. And if anybody has questions about insurance, that's one of the harder parts when doing contracts with the city is the insurance requirements. But we want to be as much of a resource to you as possible. Our risk management team is really great about being willing to talk directly to your broker or provider to make sure that the language, that the insurance language that they speak to each other is clear. I know that I don't always understand exactly what I'm asking for. And so it's hard to describe it because they just have certain ways of saying things. So we're so grateful to our risk department for being willing to step in and have direct contact and be assistance for us. So great. So speaking of the contract, we have the contract review process. We have Tiffany Bestwick with us from Tacoma Venues and Events. She's in our finance department. She assisted with contracts last year, so I asked her to be here as part of the Q&A session. However, your contract analyst for this year's funding will be a new individual, Kwanzaa. And that's honestly a lot of the person you do. Once you've been notified that you're a recipient, a lot of the contact will be with Quan and myself. And so we like to make sure that we're introducing you to these folks so that you know who you're going to be working with directly. to me, I didn't know if you wanted to go over any of this process or say anything real quick, but I'm also happy to keep moving on.
I'm happy for you to just go over it.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
Okay.
So the way that the contract process works is that I create the contracts. I'm the contract holder. I just have Juan who's available to help me get the information and get the insurance requirements. So from your application, and this is why it's important to put the correct information on your application, the information that's on your application is the information that will go in your contract. And so we want to make sure that you're providing us with that correct information. We understand things change, mistakes happen, not a big deal. We're also happy to change it. It's just an extra step. But double check, please, if you can. Make sure you're asking if you need to ask a supervisor, director, who the point of contact on the contract will be. There is a section for the applicant's information and a section for the contract signer's information. So make sure you're getting both of them there. The contract will include the scope of work. It'll also come with any of the supporting documents that were provided in the application. We consider those your appendix items, so they become a part of your contract. Once we have all of your information, the contract will be sent to you and whomever the other signatory is for review. Please respond to that email that says, please review your contract. If you do not respond to that email, can't move forward, which means you're not going to get signed up in Ariba, which means when your event ends and it's time to get paid and you've got people to pay out, there's still a lot of steps ahead of you because you have not reviewed your contract. We're trying to get that done and out of the way so that when your event is complete, the only thing you have to do is submit a final report and an invoice and your budget sheet, and I can say, okay to pay. Once your contract is reviewed and it has been okayed by the signatory or signatories, it will go to our procurement department, where it is sent into another review process. Once that review process is complete, it goes out for signature, and that is in the form of a DocuSign. So you'll receive an email notification from DocuSign that says whatever the contract number is, and then the special event funding, and then the name of the event is ready to be signed. Once it's signed, it comes to me first for signature, and then it's routed through the city. The supplier, which is the event holder, is the last person to sign. So once it's signed, that means we're ready to receive final documentation. And once we receive your final documentation, then once your event is complete and your final documents are approved, I can okay to pay. It's my 3 favorite words, okay to pay. So next we're gonna have Gerald kind of close us out and talk about some of the marketing and participation requirements of the application. And so take it away, my man.
Cool. Just for the marketing aspect of just for your event, and I know we've seen like awesome flyers, especially from this year and last year, having with the, our Tacoma Venues events logo. It will be great to kind of utilize this. We do have this onto the special events landing page as well on the logo standards that we have. So like maintaining like a clear space of our logo, unacceptable uses, and also just like logo uses. So we do have 2 primary. One is just our kind of our navy blue and our black, but also since, you know, with design elements as well, the background may be a little bit darker. So we also have a white, all white Tacoma Venues Events logo added onto there. So yeah, just more information about that information. Like if you have any questions about if the logo looks good on your poster, just email just to Ashley, and then she'll just pretty much give you the thumbs up or just give you like a little, hey, have a suggestion for this. So that's it for logo standards. Next slide, Ashley.
I'm gonna just stop really quick. This will be enforced a lot more this year. We had several events over the past few years that did not send us their marketing materials and did not show us that City of Tacoma logo is used. This will be enforced a lot more, and it'll be a little bit policed by staff members to see, okay, I've seen this event, I've seen their marketing, our logo's not on it, and it'll be sent to me, and I'll be reaching out and saying, please update that. It is a requirement, so.
You don't want that email.
And I don't want to send it, you know. And let us know if you need help with that element of it. Gerald's happy to, he's a really great resource.
Yeah, for sure. And then also too, we do have the supplier toolkit, which will have a QR code following at the end of the presentation. But just for our Tacoma Venues events, we just want to keep it like a seamless process for you guys applying for special events funding, but also while you guys get selected. So we do have like the program guidelines that are up there. Like I mentioned, the marketing guidelines, insurance. We also, and Ashley made a great invoice template, purchasing guidelines, and then kind of give like a step-by-step login into the homepage to Ariba. So all these are, of course, what we talked about it during the presentation, but also be available for you post-presentation, and you can click onto any of the buttons and then it will guide you and get you to the right direction. So next slide. And then just participation support with the Tacoma Venues events, the city's events and recognitions committee, who's like to support your events. So here's kind of like some top ways you can do that. If you're interested, tailing as a vendor, representing TV, and start to spread the word about special events support to the community. Also as be a participant, say we have a need, please reach out. And then if we can attend, we would like to attend to your event, but also we would like to support you on social media. So for us, I handle the social media for our Tacoma Venues events sites. So if you just follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, which is linked down over there, yeah, and then just tag us on some of your posts, and then we'll either reshare it onto our stories or reshare onto as a post on our socials. So. And then, of course, if there's any other ways, we love to have the opportunity to support your event however possible. So just want you guys to be successful.
Great, and I am your #1 resource for all things special event funding. Please reach out to me with questions, concerns, feedback. We have several web pages that Gerald did a really great job on trying to make them clear, concise, and organized, but always room for growth and improvement. Please email, call. I will be very transparent. Phone calls are not the best way to get a hold of me. The phone rings unrelentlessly, and it takes me a long time to get back to voicemail. So email is the #1 way to go. And then there are several pages here for you to go on the Tacoma Venues website.
Yeah.
So now we are going to open it up to Q&A. I am going to ask you to do the following. If you have a question, please drop it in either the Q&A or in the chat, and then we will turn your microphone on to go over the question with you directly. Gerald, do we have anything to start off with?
Yeah, we do have one question. Is asking, can we get a copy of our evaluation from last year's application?
I'm happy to send you the scores from last year. Please email me at ayoung1@tacomavenues.org and remind me what your event name and organization were, and I can look up the scores from last year.
Perfect. And then also we got kind of a sentiment, but also a question. It says very helpful information. Thank you for hosting these sessions. Will the presentation also be uploaded along with this session?
Yes, Gerald will be putting this recorded Q&A session online on the special event funding main page. And we will have the recording and the slide decks from here.
Cool. And then we have one other question in the Q&A, and also we had a hand up by Faith, but we'll ask, can you get the application form from the website?
The application form is online. It is not a document, so it is not a Word document, and it is not a PDF document. We want it to live online so that there's not a bunch of documents floating out in the universe, and then when it's not the correct one, people get upset, and I understand that's really challenging and frustrating. So our solution is try to keep it all online. If you need translation services, We are happy to get a translated version of all of the information. Please reach out to me one-on-one, and we will get that set up for you. If you want to look ahead, I know that the fields are required, but it's also you can save it, so you will have access to it if you close out of it through your Google account. So you do need to create a Google account if you do not already have one. I have one created with my City of Tacoma email, so it does not have to be a Gmail. You can still use your normal email address for that. We made it so it does not have to be Google verified. It just has to be an email address account set up. So that way you can save it and come back to it and look ahead. And just like I put like a dot in all the required fields, and then I press next, and then I go back.
And
If
then
you have
also,
specific questions, though, please let me know.
and then there's a follow-up question, is if the Google form is the only form of for the application.
Currently, yes.
Okay.
If you need other accommodations, please reach out to me directly.
Cool. And then have
There's
another
a hand raised. Let's get that.
Oh, yeah.
The person that had their hand raised was.
I'm gonna face. There you go.
Hi, Faith.
Hi, I have a question. For in the application, you've said Ariba is the last step after applications, right?
No, Ariba is for if you receive funding. Ariba is the city's contracting and payment system that's used.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Good question, Faith. And then we have a couple more. It says you didn't mention anything along the lines, but do you favor certain types of events, like event series that provide program in different areas of the city, or events that impact lots of people versus smaller events, etc.?
Hi, Sander. Fantastic question, and I'm happy to unmute you if you want to talk about that a little bit more. No, when I've seen the committee do really small events that are only serving a particular type of community, and I've also seen them fund really big events that impact the entire city. What they're really looking for is the equity component in there, regardless of the scale of your event. So we recently created an equity and events toolkit that you will find on the special event funding page that goes over, it aligns with the equity and merit and community impact sections of the scoring materials. And so you'll be able to look through that toolkit and pull out resources and ways to incorporate equity planning into your event. But the size and scale of the event does not necessarily matter. Underrepresented communities, though, are always a plus, because their goal is to fund events in all 5 of our districts and try not to lean heavily on just one district over the other.
All right. And then there's a follow-up question. It says, would it be possible for you to provide the application in Word for us to work in advance of entering our answers online?
Again, we're trying really hard to avoid live documents living out there. It's gotten us in a lot of trouble in the past. But let me talk to my team on a creative way for you guys to see the questions in advance. Perhaps there's a way we can put them online so that you can just see what they are, and then you can, copy and paste them into a Word document on your own. But we really are trying to move away from live documents living out there, because we've just seen it really become a frustrating component to our community members that find old documentation and think that's the correct one and hasn't been updated, and then they use that and then they have to start all over again because it's not right. And that's not fair to those individuals, and it's really hard sometimes to get live documents off the internet. There's one that I've been trying to conquer with Gerald for like the past 4 months and I can't find where it originates from. And so I can't go back and remove it. It just exists out there. So, but great idea. I have heard that feedback in the past. And so let us think of some creative solutions.
And then we also have Aaron, who's
Hi,
Hello.
Erin.
Hi, Ashley. So I just, a solution to that I use is I will copy all the questions off the internet, off the Google Drive, and put it into a Word document, do all my questions, answer all my questions in the Word document, and then when I'm done, I cut and paste them into the document. So that might be a solution.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we can find a way for that to be able to happen. And so Daryl and I actually will work on that today, probably.
Cool. And then those are the questions, all the questions from the Q&A section of Zoom. So
Lovely. If there's anybody else that wants to ask a question, please raise your hand. I'll allow you to talk or drop it in the chat. The Q&A thing is up. Otherwise, we're incredibly thrilled for an opportunity to once again distribute funding to our community for events that happen all over Tacoma for all different types of peoples, all different types of communities and cultures. This is one of the fun, happy ones, and we love that we get to be part of it. And we appreciate you going on the journey with us. And I'm going to stop sharing and let us know if you need anything or have questions. And I see one more hand, so Faith, take it away.
Thank you so much. I just want to clarify this again. The insurances and the licenses are for after you receive the funding, right? So for now, we just need to send the proposals and that's it.
Yes, right now is just the application, insurance, ARIBA, the supplier enablement, that all happens if you receive funding. And so you will be notified when the funding is announced, and you will also be given instructions then.
Same to the permits.
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate everybody being here. I hope that this was productive for you. And we look forward to receiving some amazing event applications in the near future. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend.